trying to move in the direction of. Dukkha is often where we end up. So it's a question of what can we do to make dukkha as minimal as possible and sukha as maximum as possible, but sukha in really a good sense. Because often people will say, you know, sukh, as if it was something that you could purchase, or you could always make, or if you had enough of something, or you had that somehow it would come to you, and then it would be, and then you would have it. But it's not something that you possess. It's something that you experience. It's something that you are in a state of. And that's what Ayurveda is interested in. The Sushruta Samhita, which is basically a text on surgery. And we have plastic surgery in the modern world because of the Sushruta Samhita, because almost 200 years ago, when Sushruta was translated into German, people took out a couple of operations and started using them. You can still find that operation in surgical textbooks today, the pedicle graft operation. Undoubtedly, it's been improved, but that's what medicine and surgery is all about, improving and changing. Ayurveda has improved and changed and altered quite a bit over the centuries and millennia. In fact, before the very reason for the form of Ayurveda that we have it in now is because there was a shift from the kind of Ayurveda that lived in that was used in the Vedic era. Because the word Ayurveda, it was employed because Ayurveda is traditionally supposed to be the Upaveda, the secondary body of knowledge, to the Atharva Veda, something that assists the Atharva Veda in being well used. And the Atharva Veda is all about trying to do practical things in the world, like treat disease. Ayurveda back at that time was a shamanic medical system. Individuals who had developed great personal power by employing the mantras of the Vedas would have patients come to them, and then they would use maybe a root or a fruit or a leaf, but it was less from the kind of way we're using it nowadays. You cook them all together and come up with Chyavanprash and take it and then hope that you will remain, if not immortal, then less mortal. It was much more a matter of the prana. Is there anyone who doesn't know that word prana? Prana. So, prana means chi. Prana means the life force. The thing that inspires all life. The thing that takes a zygote, a one cell, sperm and egg come together, and causes it to expand and grow and turn into the human organism of many trillions of cells and many complicated interactions of all kinds of neurons and other cells and hormones and so on. And of course the interaction of the 7+ billion humans on the planet and all of that is being managed by this force of prana. You can't see it, taste it, touch it. You can feel it if you were sensitive. You don't have to be that sensitive, but you have to be able to pay attention to what's going on in you if you want to be able to experience what prana is. And as a student of Jyotish, I tend to think in archetypal terms. I find that very useful. And when I think about the world in which you and I are currently living, it strikes me that we are living in Rahu world. Because as you may know, Rahu is a head that has no body attached to it. But when I think of Rahu, I think of the fact that people, and I'm one of them, spend a lot of time on the internet. And in order to do that, you have to look at a screen. And on the screen, there are patterns moving. They're never stopping. They're only stopping if for some reason your browser has got stuck or whatever. So they're shadows. But shadows can be very powerful things. They don't have any inherent, this is an inherent physical thing. I can touch it, I can feel it. You can't touch the shadow. You can't smell the shadow, but the shadow can cause you to weep. The shadow can cause you to laugh. The shadow can get you involved in it. The shadow can force you to run around and do all kinds of things. So the further that we get into this artificial, subtle world that we're creating for ourselves, the subtle world has always been there. The world, the archetypal world, the world of thoughts and emotions and all kinds of human things going on in a non-physical way. But now humans are replicating this in an external kind of form, kind of like putting two mirrors together and seeing it, the image of those mirrors recede into infinity in both directions. The difficulty is that, as with many things that are addictive, it is very easy to be addicted to this sort of thing. And the more addicted you are to that, the more your attention will be grabbed by that. The 9 planets in Jyotish are not called 9 planets, they're called the Navagrahas. And the word graha means to grasp, to grip. So the 9 planets, including Rahu, grab a hold of you and take your attention away in whatever direction they want it to go. So they are taking your attention away, and in this case, they're wherever your attention goes, your prana will go as well. This is an immutable law of yoga, and of, for that matter, Ayurveda and everything else. Wherever your attention goes, your prana follows your attention. So, if you want to be healthy, the prana has to be circulating in your body very nicely. If you want to be healthy, the prana that is coming in and the prana is going out need to be balanced in a nice, healthy kind of way. But if you are spending a lot of time putting your prana into paying attention to what's going on the phone and on the laptop and on all the other devices, and you are not putting sufficient attention onto ensuring that the prana is circulating in your own system, then you can be sure that something will go wrong. You can be certain of that. So aside from all the vata, pitta, kapha, and everything else, which are all important, what's most important is, when it comes to Ayurveda, what's most important is the word guna. I'm sure you know the word guna. It means a quality, an attribute, a characteristic. And this is the sort of life that you and I live as human beings. We live a life of qualities. It doesn't matter to us, practically speaking, as human beings, what is the actual temperature of absolute zero. Nor do we care really, practically speaking, what is the temperature of the sun. Both of them are too cold, are too extreme for our experience. What we do care about is whether we personally have the sensation of being cold or hot. Because if you are too cold or too hot, your body will not be able to withstand that, and it will start to lose its balance, and you will experience the opposite of sukha. You will experience dukkha. Different people will feel hot or cold at different temperatures. You may have had the experience of being around another human being who found that what you were finding hot they were finding not at all hot, or what you thought was unpleasantly cool was in fact very pleasant to them. So your experience of a particular temperature is far more important than the temperature itself. Your experience of a particular taste is far more important than what the taste itself might be. Your experience of the world in general is far more important than some sort of objective idea about how things might be. And this all boils down to guna. If you have already a lot of heat in your system, and if your system has a tendency to produce more heat, then you are not going to find it very enjoyable to spend a lot of time in the heat. If, on the other hand, your system has a tendency to be constricted, and you find that even when the weather becomes slightly cooler, that you become unpleasantly cold, then you will find that you can probably suck up a lot more heat than other people can. To some extent, these are natural tendencies as part of your personal constitution, your prakriti, your deha prakriti. And to some extent, these are behaviors that are developed as a result of what has happened to you in your life. I've had friends who have moved from India to North America, some of them to very cold climates, and when they come back to India, they can't take the heat anymore. And vice versa. People from North America come to a tropical country, live there for a while, and then can't take the cold anymore. So there's always a combination, or there's always a potential combination of your personal innate tendency and your experience of adapting externally in the context of that innate tendency. And how well your organism is able to cope with both of these factors, with your prakriti and with your vikriti, will help to determine substantially how well or unwell you happen to be. Those of you who have heard of Ayurveda have probably heard that there are 3 doshas in Ayurveda: Vata, Pitta, and Kapha. It's useful to remember that these doshas either exist or they do not exist. They may exist in some actual way in the body, or, again, in my opinion, it is quite possible that they are only representing tendencies that are present in the body, accumulations of certain qualities that are causing the body to behave as if they do exist. One tendency that is very common in the modern world is that things are very thing-like. Things are commoditization is of course been pioneered by my country. We sell intellectual rights, intellectual property rights. I mean, in the past, you could have a thought and it was okay, and you might even share it with somebody else. But now, you have to find out whether you can do that or not without paying someone royalty for it. And water is for sale, and air is for sale, and pretty much everything is for sale. And things that are for sale have to be broken down into small units so you can identify how many economic units need to be exchanged for whatever unit it is. Digitization promotes commerce because things are digitized. So the more that this happens externally, the more there will be a tendency on the inside for us to look at things, even things that are not really sharp and individualized and digitized, to look at them as if they were that way. So to look at the doshas, Vata, Pitta, and Kapha, as if they were things that we could grab hold of. But probably they are not things that we can grab hold of. So, particularly because, you know, the word dosha, of course, means a mistake, a fault, something that not only either has gone wrong or could cause something else to go wrong. And that's the reason that this is applied to those three factors, Vata, Pitta, and Kapha. Because there are things that when they are out of balance, encourage everything else to go out of balance. When they are disturbed, they encourage everything else to become more disturbed. And I have found that often when people teach about Ayurveda, this is what they teach, that this is all that the doshas do. But if you look in the texts, they comment that as long as the doshas, the three doshas, Vata, Pitta, and Kapha, as long as they are in the right amount in the organism, and as long as they are balanced with one another, we don't call them doshas. We call them instead dhatu. Dhatu means specifically a tissue, but dhatu means a thing that supports the body. So in fact, this Vata, Pitta, and Kapha are very important parts of the physiology. And as long as they're balanced, they support the body. If they are in balance, but they're increased quantity, if there's more force of these forces than there should be, then we still don't call them doshas as long as they're not out of balance. We might call them, however, mullas. A mulla means a waste product. So even then, we're not insulting them by calling them doshas. We're saying that they are, and a waste product is something that your body cannot use at that moment, that has to be thrown out. So even then, we're not saying that the doshas are bad things, we're just saying that if you have too much of them, you need to get rid of the too much, and then you maintain the balance, and then everything all returns to in the direction of where it should be. It's only when they are too much and that they are out of balance that the problem occurs. And they go out of balance if you encourage the qualities that make them up to become increased in your system. So in the case of Vata, for example, Vata is the most troublesome of the doshas because it is it's the one that goes out of balance most easily. And Vata is very similar to prana. In fact, the only difference between Vata and prana is that prana always knows what is the right thing to do and always tries to do it. And Vata usually does not have full information about what the right thing to do is, but is enthusiastic about doing things anyway. Prana is something that always centers itself deeply in the tissues. Vata is eccentric. It's off of center. It is not evenly and agreeably distributed in all of the body. It tends to accumulate in one area. And it can accumulate anywhere, though it often will accumulate in the large intestine and or in the lungs, because these are the two most important organs for bringing in prana from the outside environment. The lungs take in the prana from the air, and the large intestine takes in the prana from the food. Yes, the small intestine takes in all of the details from the food, all of the carbohydrates and fats and proteins and so on, but the large intestine takes the prana out of the food.